What's going on, everybody? I hope you're enjoying your Saturday afternoon so far. This is NYG Jeffy T 85 here, and I'm going to talk about what a possible contract for Brooklyn Nets restricted free agent small forward Cam Johnson could look like. Now, obviously, we know Cam Johnson was involved in that trade that happened near the trade deadline with his teammate Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder, who was eventually traded to the Milwaukee Bucks in exchange for a couple of first-round picks, a second-round pick in the future, and then obviously Johnson and Bridges. Johnson right now, who is averaging about 15 points per game and shooting about 40% from the three-point line, shooting about 40% from three, and he's grabbed about 4 rebounds per game. He's also a much-needed plus defender at the wing. Is scheduled to be a restricted free agent after this year when his 4-year deal concludes from the Brooklyn Nets. Now, according to Brian Lewis of the New York Post, who has been covering the Brooklyn Nets, the Suns and Cam Johnson were talking a potential contract extension before this season, and they were willing to offer him 4 years and $72 million overall, with an $18 million per year average for Johnson going into the season. But they couldn't come to any type of deal before eventually he got the trade. This is according to Lewis. The tight relationship with Bridges, plus the positional value and status as part of Durant's deal, makes him hard to let escape. He's a 6'8 wing who can shoot 40% from deep with a solid defense that will command top dollar. Sources say his floor is around $18 million annually, and he could easily top $20 million per season. And with the new league-wide TV deal kicking in after the 2024-2025 NBA season, it'll make the end of Johnson's contract a smaller cut of whatever the salary cap becomes. And some are projecting that he can make at least around a 4-year, $80 to $85 million deal overall, which would pay him around $20 to around $22 million per season. And the Nets right now have a lot of valuable wings on their team at the moment, where they have, obviously, Johnson and Mikal Bridges, who as well is on a team-friendly deal all the way until about 2028. They also have Dorian Finney-Smith, Joe Harris, Royce O'Neal, and they also have Ben Simmons and Yuta Watanabe. But Cam Johnson is one of those guys right now that the Brooklyn Nets are going to probably look to see if they can lock up to a long-term deal. It's just a question of, are they going to be willing to pay this guy the type of big-time money that he might be asking for when we get to free agency? In my opinion, they should. And also the fact that not only is he very close with Mikal Bridges, that's another big part on why you need to bring back a guy like Cam Johnson. The Nets are right now sort of in that holding pattern period, where they don't really know who is going to be part of their future and who isn't. And they need to find an identity going forward into 2023 and beyond. And you figure somebody like Cam Johnson can be part of that future. He's only 27 years old, just literally turned 27. I mean, he's going to go into the prime years of his career. He's only a player that's going to continue to get better. 15 points per game, plus defender on the wings, 40% three-point shooter. I don't see any reason why the Nets cannot explore giving this guy a contract extension. Because in reality, you traded Kevin Durant from the Nets in order to acquire this guy and Bridges. That alone should make you want to make Johnson a prime player to build around going into the future, as well as Bridges. Unless you're planning on just saying, we tried, but we're going to blow it up, and we're going to try to rebuild and get a whole bunch of draft capital. If that's the case, then you trade Dinwiddie, you trade Dorian Finney-Smith, you trade Royce O'Neal, you trade Mikal Bridges, you don't let Cam Johnson go, you try to do a sign and trade with him, you break it all down. You trade Claxton, unless you want to keep him because he's a young player. But, in my opinion, the Nets have got to try to find a way to prioritize Cam Johnson in free agency. He's right now probably the number 3 option in terms of the offensive player on the team, behind Mikal Bridges and Spencer Dinwiddie. I'd probably say Cam Johnson is the number 3 option on this team in terms of offensive game. Would you be willing to offer him a 4-year deal of about $80 to $85 million per season? Could be more. But like we mentioned, with the league-wide television deal on the horizon for the NBA, it's possible that maybe the Brooklyn Nets are going to have a little bit more salary cap to use and play with, and it's going to give them a better opportunity to be able to offer Cam Johnson a big-time deal, because at the same time, the Nets are going to try to see if they could trade Ben Simmons this offseason. They've already made that notable, that they're going to look to see if they can trade Simmons in the offseason and maybe try to get a little bit more salary cap room, even though they're probably going to have to bite the bullet a little bit in order to get rid of Simmons this offseason. But you're telling me if you can't trade, you can't offer a deal like that for Cam Johnson, who you traded, like I mentioned, Kevin Durant, in order to acquire this guy? He's a top-level player on this team. He's one of the best players on this team. And there's not a lot of guys that have his length, defensive player, being able to hit the 3 like he can from behind the arc at 40% plus. That's something that you really don't want to give up on. And if I'm Sean Marks, I'd really, really, really find it very hard to believe that you would not want to offer this guy the type of money that he'd be looking for. So I think in the end, I do believe that the Nets are going to lock up Cam Johnson to a long-term deal. And I would not be shocked if the Nets even try to work on a better deal for Mikal Bridges. And they try to use these 2 guys, along with Claxton, as the core of their team going forward. Because of the fact that Claxton is only 23 years old, and Bridges is only 26, and Johnson is only 27. These guys are in the prime of their NBA careers. Claxton hasn't even hit his prime yet. And this is only going to help this team be able to maybe acquire some other guys in free agency or through trade, if you have good young players like this on your squad already. So in the end, I think the best thing for the Brooklyn Nets to do, unless Johnson is going to be getting a lot more money on the open market, because he's right now partnered with CAA, that's his agency right now in terms of working out a long-term deal. But the Nets hold his rights. He is a restricted free agent, so anybody that offers him a deal, the Nets have the right to match it. And I really believe, in my heart of heart, if any team offers Cam Johnson a deal in free agency, I do believe the Nets will match it. Because they know the value of Cam Johnson, and they know they don't want to let this guy go. So I do believe in the end, Cam Johnson will be a Brooklyn Net after next season. He will be part of the long-term process with this team going forward. But you guys let me know in the comment section what you think about Cam Johnson potentially being offered $20+ million per season in restricted free agency, and if you'd be willing to give him that in restricted free agency to keep him here as a long-term piece of the Brooklyn Nets going forward. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Give a sub to NYGJeffyT85 for more news, updates, and chatter surrounding the Brooklyn Nets. And turn on the bell for notifications on the next video or short that will be dropping on the channel surrounding the Brooklyn Nets. And let me know in the comment section what you think about the news surrounding Cam Johnson and the fact that he could earn to as much as $20+ million per season in restricted free agency for the Brooklyn Nets. And if you'd be willing to offer that if you're the Nets. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Take it easy and let's go Brooklyn Nets. It's a Nets world, and we're all just living in it.